Hey, this is James Pelton, and I'm just getting ready to head out for the Constellation Conference, the High Def Conference in LA. So you might not hear from me for a couple of days, but who am I kidding? You know I'll find a way to get videos out even while I'm there. I did want to release, I did my Yieldnodes audit video a few days ago, but I did want to release the full interview just so you could get to know Steve a little bit. I apologize for the audio. I did not have my high-tech, Yeti microphone. So it's not as good as normal, but you can still hear pretty well. And Steve's actually a pretty funny guy. We kind of give him a hard time because like on the website, he's not smiling. He kind of has like a mugshot look a little bit. So I told him to smile. And so he's a real nice guy. We had a lot of fun. So here is the full interview with Steve, and I hope that it's helpful for you. Again, if you do find this helpful, please hit the like button. It helps more than you know. So hit the like button. Comment of the day is, what's your favorite TV show? We'll go with that one. And again, the comments just help the YouTube algorithm know that this is good content and keep it going. So anyways, enough of me, although you're going to see more of me, but enough of me right now. And here's my full interview with Steve from Yieldnodes. Steve, we're in Malta, so this has been really cool. My first trip to Europe, so it's been quite an experience, been a lot of fun. Steve, thanks for joining me here.
Gladly, man. Gladly.
Yeah, he's on he's flying out later today, so I really appreciate you taking the time to answer some questions. So I have a few of my own questions, and then a few from the audience that they wanted to ask. So my first question, and this is
ready to get grilled.
Okay, ready to get grilled, roasted. That's awesome.
Yeah.
First question, and look at smile, yeah.
Okay.
And so first question, and this is kind of like a broad question, but is Yieldnodes based on Ponzinomics? So do you use future investors' money to pay out existing investors, or is there something else that's going on?
Yes. No, I was just joking. Obviously not. Obviously not. So you have been part of the audit. You saw the numbers. You saw that we are roughly, at the current stage in the market, roughly 30% over-collateralized. So we're in a good position. We have more money made than we need to cover payouts. So essentially a Ponzi is defined by spending money that is not there from new investors. And if you generate more money than you have, it contradicts that. So I think we give some proof.
Yeah.
We tried, I remember when we did the audit together, I was kind of suggesting that we do some checks, in the wallet, so you don't need to see all the wallets. But this guy here was really, really wanting to know every wallet and every balance, so he could do a good assessment. Yes. And so you really, I believe you saw it.
I've seen everything. I've seen everything you have. So yes, definitely. Just an estimate. Again, we don't have to have like specific, but how long do you think Yieldnodes could continue paying out? Like we'll say no new investors came in and just stopped it right now. How long do you think that you could continue going on doing what you're doing?
Okay, this is a tricky question.
Yeah.
Very tricky.
Yes.
It really depends how well the use cases get adopted. Because if there's no new investors coming in, we are still going fine because we do not need the additional money, but we need to work on the use cases, probably speed up the adoption process so that the value of the coins is stable and sturdy, but we have a good feeling.
Okay. Yeah, and then so let's talk about use cases. So one thing we were talking about earlier off camera is that's something that's going to have to be figured out is you have these coins and you've kind of started taking over these projects. Exactly. Do you want to talk about maybe what use cases there are now and what future use cases you're kind of working towards?
We have, as you know, about 20 coins. It depends always because we merge some communities and we try to fine-tune the full thing. But the biggest use case that we have and where the most hopes will learn is the cooperation with Sao Tome to get, essentially, Yieldnodes is about bringing the value back into real-world assets. So we have made this cooperation with Sao Tome to bring solar tech and sustainable farming combined with the coin. Like coins can be used to purchase power, products, and we already have the letter of intent of the minister, of the president, ministers as well, president, and we are going to implement that over the course of the next year. We had also we have some minor use cases that we are working currently on, and we are getting team leaders on it. But they have been postponed a little bit because to the sheer size of our growth, the use cases needed to be changed because, as I mentioned before, Yieldnodes is work in progress. It's a little bit hard to explain, but we are not there yet where we want to be because if we were, we wouldn't look for investors. So this is an ongoing journey, and we need to transform all the time into different and change also projects, and that's why we are where we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how would you say, how is the bear market, you know, we had the huge drop in May, how has that kind of affected Yieldnodes' bottom line, and how has that affected kind of the finances of the company?
It did affect us in a sense that we had less yield. But we were constantly profitable throughout the bear market, down to really, we probably would have started sweating if it went lower and lower and lower, like the breaking point that we assume where it could get dangerous is like $5,000-6,000 Bitcoin, $5,000-6,000 Bitcoin price, something like that. But in all honesty, it's very hard to estimate because when Bitcoin was at $68,000, we never thought at that point in time that we could survive a crash that was going down to 17,000. It was kind of off the table for us. We were like, okay, if that happens, then the full industry must crash. But through the progress and through the time that passed and the sturdiness of our community, we still managed, and we are very happy with the numbers. And we also estimate that the yields might go up again, you know, as soon as the bull market kicks in. So all in all, very, very happy.
Yeah.
And glad, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, even for me, the audit process is something, when I come here, flying to Malta and meet the team, I knew the numbers before, but seeing the numbers on the wall, this is also giving me extreme confidence to actually, you know, believe in the project and have this assurance of, like, trust is good, but proof is always better.
Right.
That's why I'm like breathing freely. You know?
Yeah. Trust plus proof is the winning combination there. Yeah. And, yeah, that's very cool. And I was, you know, in this bear market, I think they're just happy to have any yield. They're just happy they didn't lose all their money. So I think having any yield, you know, not only did we not lose our money, but we got 6%, you know, a month return. I think that's incredible through the bear market. I mean, I got tons of comments on Twitter saying Yieldnodes is the only thing that is holding up for me right now. Everything else is lost.
Probably because we went to a scam cycle. You know, all of the projects that were kind of like, you know, don't want to mention any names, hyperfund entities. It's like, you know, everything I think you can talk about it, right? Because it's a scam after all, and they disappeared. So if they want to sue back, they can take some money in hand and they pay the investors out. But we get a lot of emails like, this program tanked, this project tanked. You are my only hope, which is putting a lot of pressure. But we do understand the people because this is the last thing where they have the money. We actively tell them that, you know, you should really de-risk, because if this is your last stand, your last thought, you really need to de-risk for the sake of your finances. So take some money out, withdraw. We actively give that suggestion because relying only on one thing in life is always bad. So when other investments tank that you are invested in, you need to redistribute your portfolio, or at least, you know, even if it's just stashing money in the bank, which is less from optimal, but at least you got some savings, you know, especially family, children.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really appreciate you. Every time I've talked with you, you've been very upfront about like, hey, this is not a sure thing. And even when you're like talking to YouTubers who are going to, you know, talk to their communities about this, you say, hey, make sure that you tell people this is risky. Like, it's not a sure thing. It's not a take your grandma's social security and put it all in here.
Don't sell the land. Don't loan against your assets. Don't take your spouse's money, because someone suggested that as well, to take from the wife and put here because it's a surefire thing. Don't do that. just try to be, you know, mindful.
Yes.
Don't let greed eat the brain.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what would you say for an investor? What do you think are the biggest risks for Yieldnodes?
Hackers are always a problem. we are we haven't been hacked so far in those 3 years because we distribute amongst the nodes very well, and we have some very seasoned IT veterans, especially Urs, who's in the IT industry since he's been a toddler from, I'm assuming, but he's very long in the game. And also the other team members that we have. Plus, it's so distributed that if something gets hacked, there's never access to the full capital. So I believe we are very well on that area. Also on the Yieldnodes to Decenomy part, because most of the steps that I'm doing are manual. So I'm always doing checks before when we do withdrawals, when we do the deposits, if the numbers match. We have a code inside the code that is always matching if something is going amiss. For example, just to tell you a small story, there was a double-clicking error where some guy withdrew an additional money that shouldn't have been withdrawn. It was a millisecond of double-clicking, and the system then warned that there's an imbalance in the funds, and we saw it instantly and could correct it. So there's control mechanisms that prevent such things from happening.
Yeah.
And the other factor, which is a danger, is cryptocurrency in itself. If the cryptocurrency idea is dying, or governments prohibit cryptocurrency, or Bitcoin goes so low that it becomes essentially insignificant, then this is also a huge danger, because in essence we are coins, we are cryptocurrency, and we depend on that sentiment a lot. So this is the other factor, but I believe both of those are kind of small risk compared to the grand scheme.
Yeah.
But we are all crypto believers. You're running a crypto investment channel, probably.
Yeah.
So
and I always tell my audience, what you're looking for is there's always a risk-reward ratio. So, you're not going to get 180% APY without some level of risk. And so you just have to, as an investor, kind of match up, okay, is the 180% APY worth the risks that are involved in Yieldnodes? And you do that with every project. Compare the risk-reward ratio. Are you worried about any regulatory, apart from crypto in general, but with Yieldnodes specifically, are there regulatory in the US or something, regulatory issues that you're concerned about?
We are always concerned about anything. This is we are very like chickens, we need to be very aware of everything that is surrounding us, because ultimately we need to protect the capital and the investors. So we're always looking out, and we're always checking if there's some investigation, something that is not okay. But we are pretty relaxed about that, because currently the market is undergoing big changes, and the regulatory measurements, regulatory framework has not been completed. There's a lot of ongoing debate, especially in the US as of lately. So until the rules have not been fixed yet completely, we are still working in a gray area. And as long as we do that ethically and we have more money, then we need to cover the deposits. Essentially, it's always about money. If you're not running a scam and you're confident, you're kind of safe.
Yeah.
Only scammers are afraid of regulatory oversight because something could be found out, and that's why we are on that topic quite relaxed.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I heard you talk about that you kind of welcome regulation, because you guys are trying to do everything the right way, and so you shouldn't have
as long as it's not too costly, and it doesn't impede innovation. If it impedes the innovation of what we are doing by saying you cannot do that, you cannot do this, essentially trying to kill businesses, then it's a bad thing. But it also closes out all the scams that are running rampant right now on the net. So it needs to also come true, so that crypto is gonna, go on a broader scale and more capital is flowing. There's a lot of hedge funds that are waiting to enter the game, a lot of banks that want to put reserves in Bitcoin, but they need this clear regulation to act, else with the uncertainty they cannot put the big capital in. And so we are sitting, waiting, and hoping this is happening soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then last question for me, then my audience had a few questions that they wanted to ask to you. So when you look at the charts, Bitcoin, took this big crash. Ethereum took this big crash. The whole market took this big crash. But Sapphire, you see go up. And so a lot of people have talked about, Yieldnodes is manipulating the liquidity and manipulating.
We prefer about stabilizing.
Yeah.
Stabilizing and acting in the investor's interest for that.
Yeah.
Because
and it was interesting. We were talking about that, and you mentioned, you were kind of open about it. Yeah, we are, keeping that price up. And it made me think about projects like Hoermann have been stabilizing their price, and everybody applauds and says, oh, good job using your liquidity to keep the price stable. but then for you, it's called manipulation. Do you want to just talk about how you think about that, and are you going to continue doing that with the Sapphire token?
We try to, as I said, we don't like the word manipulation, more like we want to stabilize everything. We are looking for consistent, low growth, long term. This is our goal. And so we do not intervene in the market very often because Sapphire can sustain itself. But if there's big sell-offs or crashes or orchestrated dumps by some other entities that want to crush the price for whatever reason, then we step in and we push the price back up to normal levels. Not always. We have our own algorithms for doing that, because if you push prices up consistently, it essentially teaches scammers to I just dump Sapphire and they're buying it up anyways, then I'm going to dump it again. We do it because we can do it because we have 20 different coins. So we can also push other coins up for the benefit or push them down. The first clientele that we care the most about is the investors in Yieldnodes. So everything that we do is for the benefit of those investors. In a second row is the stability of the coins. But we would sacrifice that if it makes our investors more money. So this is how the chain of command, the row of importance, I think that was good. You answered that great. Try to find another alliteration. Lost it.
Yes. You probably have it in German. English. Yeah, you probably have it in German.
But that the most important thing for us is our investors, and in a second point, it's the health of the coins. And so, this is how we act. We always act in the best interest to preserve the capital. This is the first directive. We're not going to change it. And I believe it shouldn't be changed. So if people say we manipulate or we stabilize, as long as it's not forbidden and as long as we can make our own market, put more pieces to the puzzle for our ecosystem to make it healthy and sustainable, then we're going to do that.
Yeah. And I can vouch that you guys still have plenty of liquidity, because that's one thing when people are, messing with liquidity to stabilize, sometimes that liquidity can drain, and then it's like, oh, well, now you're not going to be able to do that. But from looking at your numbers... Exactly,
you saw the numbers. Yeah. So we have a pretty big pool. It's not like Terra Luna. We have a lot always on the side to really have emergency measures in place. We are not putting everything to just push the price. This is not the goal. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a slow adoption of coins for a better future program.
Yeah.
And that's how we act.
Awesome. All right. So from my audience, are there plans to get into more established chains like AVAX or Phantom or DAG? Are you going to kind of stick with these 20 coins, or are you planning on branching out?
We are always we acquire aggressively. This is also one of the things that you need to do especially in a bear market. You need to acquire so that you're ready to, and you have all the upside from a bull market. So if there's interesting coins, especially what we're looking for is communities, strong communities behind the coins that love their project and could use a better tech for their coin. Those we are always looking for to acquire. The same goes for traffic, web traffic, visitors, to make the coins more known. This is also always what we look for, like top lists, ranking pages, blogs. If they want to become part of the Decenomy family, they can shoot us an offer and we evaluate them and see. We're also looking always for talent people. But coin-wise, to answer the question, we have our own technology. We have our own development center, which is actually in Portugal with our IT. With the head of the IT is Pedro. He's a seasoned C++ programmer. And he has done amazing things with the coins, especially in the field of security, merging chains, how to protect capital. And he's a great guy. And so we are developing our own technology and probably not going to dabble into someone else's. Unless there will be chain crossovers and some ideas how other projects can be implemented, but they're not going to branch out. Because we learned what we can control, we want to control, and the more it breaks a little bit with the idea of being decentralized, but as we're only at the beginning, at the first steps of Decenomy, we still need to exercise a lot of control to make this project grow. It's like a toddler, you need to watch him, that he's not falling over, you balance him out, and later you can put AI on the table, that you have an AI developer in your house to regulate everything on an automatic level.
Yeah, and sometimes people, say they're worried because you're masternoding all your own tokens, but it didn't start that way, right? Like you found, hey, we will have more control if we start acquiring these, then we'll be able to direct them in what's best for our investors. And I think people don't realize that it wasn't.
People don't, exactly. We started out as masternoding company and we masternoded alien other coins. And we found out quickly that these coins are essentially going nowhere. Like they are made only for the sole purpose to be masternoded, and we want to change that. And so this is a long process, of course. But if we have them all under our umbrella and we give them a clear direction, it works much better. Because there was another company that was out there. There were more than one masternoding company, and they went bankrupt because the coins people were losing faith, people went out of the market, the coins dwindled down, and that was it. And we, because of this idea, and I need to give us credit for it, because of this idea to acquire aggressively and grow and sustain that growth with real use cases, this is the reason why we are still in the game, so to speak.
Yeah. And could you explain just kind of briefly the difference between Yieldnodes and Decenomy, and kind of, I think people don't understand the difference between those two. You want to talk about that?
Yes, sure. Yieldnodes existed already before, was the company that essentially masternodes the coins and collects the money. And now we separated it with another entity. Of course, we own both. It's like a big family. And the Yieldnodes acts as a financier. It collects the money. It puts them into Decenomy, which means decentralized economy, under which all the coins are built and the exchanges we own, the top list, the ecosystem, so to speak. And then the profits that are coming out from Decenomy flow back to Yieldnodes, where I'm then redistributing it to the investors and partners.
Okay, good. And then I think last question that we have here, are you planning to rug pull? Is from my audience.
It depends. No, of course not. Of course not.
Okay.
I mean, there's no reason to. And it's easily explained. Let's play devil's advocate for a moment. If we are making consistent money with this project, like we are generating more money on the money that we get, there is no reason for us to rug pull. Because if you have something that works and makes consistent money, why should you kill such a good thing?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You would be under, investigation for the rest of your life. You would need to flee to, Indonesia and spend the rest of my days there. We are so transparent in what we do. We are known, where our office is, where we live, essentially everything. So,
Yeah.
for sure not. This will never be an option. What could happen if things were to go south would be like the emergency measures would be like reducing the yield, closing for a while, stopping payouts, relying more on emergency payouts, stuff like this. There's some metrics in place to reduce, but
We're a long ways from that. There's a lot of
hopefully never happen.
Yeah.
But just so you know, there will be. We will always try to do the most ethical thing in the company, and that would be like if something bad were to happen, just to pay out everyone as much as we can, or pay back as much as there is, without taking any commission, God forbid.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay. Well, awesome, Steve. Well, hey, I appreciate your time and just your transparency and letting me come out
It
here.
was a very fun interview.
Oh, yeah.
James.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's been a fun trip, really, too.
The handshake. Well, I wanted to do like this, like a handshake, they're like sliding around.
I'm cool, I'm hip. So awesome, man. That was great.
Thank you, guys.
All right. If you made it this far, thanks for watching the interview with Steve. I hope you liked it. I hope it was helpful for you. Please do hit the like button on your way out. If you would like to get started with Yieldnodes, I have a link below. It is a referral link. Just want to be upfront about that. I get a percentage of whatever you put in, but you're just going to go to sign up here and enter some information. You can see I am increasing my position in there. Then when you're ready, if you feel comfortable, you can go to deposit, and you can deposit either Bitcoin or Tether, USDT, that's on the Tether network, and those are your addresses. You just put in either in Bitcoin or in euros how much you want to put in. If you're not crypto savvy, there's no shame in that. Feel free to use one of the Transact or OnRamper or Coinify. I've had a number of people say that Transact worked well for them. There's a 500 euro minimum to have in your account, but you can use this to deposit with credit cards and at reasonable fees, I think, for the service that they're providing. So again, I hope this was helpful for you. Please reach out if you have any questions. Appreciate you guys, and I will see you later.